The gangster stuffed a girl into the boiler, and after that, he didn't forget to push her in with a pair of fire tongs, while the boiler worker beside him watched with a calm expression. He even added 2 shovels of coal to the boiler. When she was burned to ashes, he then noticed a yellow high-heeled shoe that had fallen to the ground. He suddenly had an ominous premonition because this high-heeled shoe was exactly the same as the birthday present he gave to his daughter a few days ago. Exactly the same. Could it be that the one just burned was his own daughter? However, the big game boss didn't give him time to think. He snatched the shoe and threw it into the stove and told him this was a wealthy and extremely vicious second-generation rich person who often did some underhanded things behind people's backs. And what they did was to rid the people of a scourge. After that, he talked with Axel as usual about the novel Axel had written. Seeing that Axel didn't seem to be in the mood, he gave a few instructions and then left with his subordinates. However, Axel couldn't feel at ease in his heart. Finally, it was time for the shift change. Axel wore a shabby coat and stepped on the thick snow. He trotted all the way to the first store where his daughter worked. When he learned that his daughter didn't come to work today, Axel became even more anxious. Just then, his daughter's best friend came out and told Axel that his daughter had run off with all the money in the store and eloped with a small-time gangster in the town. Axel couldn't believe it. He knew that his daughter wasn't that kind of person, but in his heart he hoped that what his daughter's best friend said was true, because if that were the case, the one burned in the boiler wouldn't be his own daughter. Axel, who was over 60 years old, didn't dare to delay for a moment. He rushed all the way to his daughter's home without stopping. However, after ringing the doorbell for a long time there was no response from inside, he became even more uneasy. He quickly opened the door with his spare key. As soon as he entered the door, he saw the other shoe was haphazardly thrown on the ground. Even though he didn't want to admit it, the one burned was his own daughter. But the fact was right in front of him. He held back his grief and threw the high-heeled shoe into the boiler, hoping that his daughter could have a pair of shoes on the other side. He held his daughter's photo and made a final farewell. A trace of fierceness flashed in his eyes. The seed of hatred was firmly planted. Next, he would seek justice for his daughter with his own hands. Although he was reluctant, Axel still stuffed his daughter's photo into the boiler. Then, he took out his military uniform that had been stored away for a long time. Axel was a veteran. That row of military medals on his chest recorded his extraordinary military career. As the commander of the engineer corps, Axel always took the lead in every mission and went forward bravely. One night, the soldiers under his command were disassembling an anti-tank mine. There was an operational error. As a result, both Axel and the soldier were severely injured by the explosion. He lay in the hospital for 3 months. Although he saved his life, he could never return to the battlefield even though he had made such great military achievements. Axel ended up as a boiler worker just because he was a recruit, but Axel didn't complain too much. Instead, he concentrated on writing novels. He wrote all the unfairness he had encountered into his novels. He earned some living expenses by working as a boiler worker. In his spare time, he told the children of the neighbors stories about the battlefield, and he enjoyed his life. However, Malcolm's treatment was different. They used to be comrades in arms, but Malcolm was just a reserve sniper hiding in the rear and never having been on the battlefield. But because he was Russian, he received various preferential treatments after the war. Relying on his connections, he became a local gang leader with his knowledge of firearms. He engaged in the business of taking money to eliminate troubles for others. After finishing the job, he brought the corpses to Axel's boiler room and directly stuffed them into the stove to destroy the evidence. And he lied to Axel, saying that the people he eliminated were all great villains who endangered the country. As a soldier, Axel highly approved of his behavior of punishing the wicked and promoting the good, so he tacitly allowed Malcolm to deal with the corpses in his place. Malcolm knew that he was writing novels, so he played to his preferences. Every time, he would bring some high-quality writing paper for him to use, but even so, the boss would still find various reasons to delay his salary. His daughter ran a fur company. Although she dressed beautifully, every time she came to see Axel, it was either to ask for money or more money. But Axel doted on his daughter extremely. He always took out all his savings without hesitation, all of it. As long as his daughter lived a good life, he was willing to eat cold ash. He was overjoyed when he learned that his daughter was pregnant. He knew that his daughter was dating a Russian. If the two got married, then his daughter could get rid of the predicament of being a yakut, the difficult situation, and she wouldn't have to face those unfair treatments anymore. What they didn't know was the Prince Charming in his daughter's mouth was exactly Riker, a capable subordinate of Malcolm. Riker was a man of few words but high efficiency. He could always complete the tasks neatly and then bring the corpses to Axel's place to destroy them. In fact, the two of them had already met countless times. However, while Riker was dating Axel's daughter, he was two-timing. He had an affair with Malcolm's daughter Isolde. Isolde was Axel's daughter's best friend. The two of them co-owned a fur store. Although as a Russian in terms of business acumen and appearance she couldn't compare with Axel's daughter, but Isolde happened to be a woman with extremely strong jealousy, a very jealous woman. Axel gave his daughter a pair of beautiful high-heeled shoes as a birthday present. When she got home she pleaded with her father Malcolm to buy her a pair too. After getting what she wanted, Isolde happily came to show off to her best friend. But she never expected that it was Riker, sweating all over, who opened the door. When Riker saw it was her, instead of giving any explanation, he closed the door indifferently. This made Isolde very sad. At the same time it made her jealousy burst out again. She absolutely couldn't stand it that an outsider was stealing her boyfriend. She was determined to take it all back. Isolde started to constantly pick on Axel's daughter. Even if the other party wasn't late she would swear at her she didn't care at all that the other party got up early and went to the raw material processing factory for an inspection. But the harder the other party worked, the more unbalanced Isolde became, so she found her father and tried to sow discord between him and Axel, saying that the other party was just an old and ugly boiler worker. Why should he be able to get the Soviet Hero Medal while you have nothing? Then Malcolm told Isolde about Axel's glorious deeds on the battlefield and also said that he himself was just a small soldier who had never been on the battlefield, so it was normal that he didn't get the medal, and the past glory was not important at all. What was important was that the national hero in the past was now a boiler worker, while he himself had become a well-known boss in the surrounding areas, and he was now a famous gang leader in the neighborhood. Her attempt didn't succeed. Isolde started speaking ill of Axel's daughter again, saying that the first store was invested and opened by them. Why should she get half of the money? And she didn't have to do anything every day. Malcolm said the idea of opening the store came from Axel's daughter, and the goods were also purchased from the Yakuts by her, so it was normal for her to take half of the profits. Isolde was at a loss for words. For a moment she couldn't admit that she was stealing her best friend's boyfriend, so she started to be unreasonable, asking her father to definitely deal with Axel's daughter. Maybe Malcolm had this intention for a long time, or maybe out of love for his daughter, he actually didn't hesitate to call Riker, asking him to get rid of the old man's daughter. Riker truly lived up to his reputation as a cold-blooded killer. After receiving the order, there was no expression on his face. He didn't feel any dilemma at all just because the target was his fiancée. The woman opened the door for her boyfriend happily, but she didn't expect that the other party would take out from his pocket a dagger. He took out a woven bag and stuffed his girlfriend into it. Then he carried her to her father's boiler room, and Axel, who had no idea what was going on, even helped add firewood. It was not until he found the high-heeled shoe that had fallen to the ground that he realized that his daughter had been killed by this group of villains. Although it was snowing heavily outside, the biting cold wind couldn't extinguish the old man's flame of revenge. He risked his life for the country and made countless contributions, numerous achievements. But in the end he was ignored because of his background. Nowadays his own daughter was also killed by his former comrade in arms. He knocked on the door of the gang leader's house. After entering the door, he began to choose a suitable weapon. However, when Malcolm saw his former comrade in arms, he didn't have any doubts. He even introduced to him the valuable ski tent. He didn't notice at all the meaning behind Axel's military uniform. Riker came over upon hearing the noise, and was also stabbed through the throat by Axel at once. This murderer finally got the punishment he deserved. Isolde ran in when she heard the noise, seeing the tragic situation of her father and boyfriend. As the instigator, she was stunned with fear. For a moment Axel didn't kill her. Maybe he thought of his own daughter, or maybe he wanted her to live her whole life in self-blame and fear. On the way back Axel had a lot on his mind. The only relative he had left him, Axel couldn't find a reason to live anymore. He returned to the boiler room in a daze. Returned to this place where countless people had been burned. Axel now knew those former ghosts were not, as Malcolm said, that they were all bad people. He told his story to the little girl who often came to listen to stories. He admonished her to never trust others easily. In the future Axel's second war ended quickly, just like his tragic life. He took a look at the blazing stove, then silently took out a dagger, calmly rolled up his sleeves. For this cold world he had no more attachment. At the end of the story, the little girl took a photo of Axel. This was the only trace he left in this world. After that she took away his novel manuscript and exposed the racial problems at that time to everyone.